Welcome to our deep dive into the art of negotiation. We're going to be looking at some pretty unexpected tactics, really, stuff pulled from the high-stakes world of hostage situations, and we'll see how we can apply those to, yeah, maybe some situations you might find yourself in.
Sounds intense.
It is, and it's all based on Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference.
Okay, yeah.
He was a former FBI hostage negotiator, so he's been in some crazy situations. He also pulls in some really interesting insights from, like, psychology and behavioral economics into his methods. So are you ready to get what you want in any negotiation?
I'm always ready to up my negotiation game.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Yeah.
So Voss starts the book with this anecdote about teaching a negotiation class at Harvard Law School. And it grabbed my attention immediately. So here he is, this former FBI guy, going up against these students who've been trained in all these, like, traditional negotiation tactics.
All right.
You know, the Harvard Law School types. And he's consistently winning.
Yeah.
So what do you think that tells us?
Well, it kind of makes you wonder if maybe we've been going about this whole negotiation thing the wrong way all along.
Right.
Because you see, traditional negotiation, it's all about, like, getting to yes. It's about finding common ground and reaching a compromise.
Yeah.
But Voss, he flips that script. He argues that sometimes it's actually more powerful to encourage the other side to say no.
I can already imagine some of our listeners are like, hold on, isn't the whole point of negotiating to get people to agree with me?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, right?
Totally. But Voss actually uses this no tactic in real life to get upgraded to first class on a flight.
No way.
Really? Yeah. So instead of, like, begging the gate agent or trying to explain why he deserves an upgrade, you know what he does? He asks her, is it impossible to get upgraded on this flight?
Yeah.
So what do you think happens?
I'm guessing she tells him no.
Bingo. She says no. And then that no is like, it's like a magic key that unlocks the negotiation.
Interesting. So instead of feeling pressured, she feels more in control, which makes her more open to hearing him outright.
Exactly. Once he gets that no, it kind of shifts the whole dynamic.
So it's kind of like reverse psychology in a way.
Kind of, yeah. There's definitely some psychology at play here. You see, when we say no, it actually triggers this sense of autonomy and reduces anxiety. Think about it. We're all kind of hardwired to resist being told what to do.
True.
So by giving the other side the opportunity to say no, you're kind of like making them feel safe and less defensive.
I see. It takes the pressure off.
Exactly. And that feeling of safety, it's essential if you want to have a real dialogue and actually get somewhere in the negotiation.
Makes sense.
There's another great example in the book about one of Voss's students, TJ.
Okay.
TJ was trying to collect payments from delinquent season ticket holders. It sounds like a tough job.
Yeah, for sure.
Instead of, like, demanding payment right away, he started using these no-oriented questions.
Like what?
Things like, are you telling me you're never coming back? Stuff like that.
So he's still getting to the point, but in a less confrontational way.
Right. And you know what? That simple shift, just by inviting that no, drastically increased his success rate.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Just a subtle change in wording can make a big difference.
It really is. So for all our listeners out there, even if you don't think of yourself as a tough negotiator, or maybe you tend to shy away from confrontation, think about how this little tweak in your language can empower you.
Absolutely.
Imagine using this in your daily life, right? Like negotiating a raise, haggling at a flea market, or even just getting your kids to eat their vegetables.
Yeah, good luck with that last one.
I know, right? But seriously, giving someone the freedom to say no might be the key to actually getting them to say yes to what you want.
It's all about understanding the psychology of the situation. And that, my friend, is where the real power lies.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so we've seen how powerful that no can be.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising, right?
Totally. But Voss doesn't stop there.
Of course not.
He goes on to talk about this concept of tactical empathy. And this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And he really brings this idea to life by sharing his experience in a 1993 Brooklyn bank robbery. It was one of his first major hostage negotiations, like a real trial by fire.
Oh, wow.
And you can just feel the tension in his writing. You know, the chaos, the uncertainty, the weight of all that responsibility.
I bet.
And it taught him a huge lesson about the limits of logic when you're dealing with a high-stakes situation.
I can imagine people don't always act rationally when they're under that kind of pressure.
Right, and that's exactly what Voss realized. He said that trying to reason with the bank robbers using those traditional negotiation tactics, it just wasn't working.
So what did he do?
Well, they were scared, obviously angry and driven by desperation, so he had to shift gears.
Yeah, he had to find a way to connect with them on a deeper level.
Exactly, and that's where tactical empathy comes in.
Okay, so it's not about agreeing with the other side or caving to their demands.
No, not at all. It's about understanding where they're coming from, what's motivating them, and then using that understanding to guide your approach.
So you're saying it's about getting into their heads.
In a way, yeah, Voss actually defines tactical empathy as the ability to recognize the perspective of the other side and vocalize that recognition.
That makes sense.
So it's like you're putting yourself in their shoes and letting them know that you see things from their point of view.
It's like saying, hey, I get it. I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly. And he uses this brilliantly in another hostage situation this time, with 3 fugitives barricaded in an apartment in Harlem.
Okay, so another high-pressure situation.
Definitely. And instead of using a commanding tone or, making threats, he switches to what he calls his late-night FM DJ voice.
Oh, what's that?
It's his calm and reassuring way of speaking, like you'd hear on the radio late at night.
Oh, I get it.
It's like he's trying to de-escalate the situation just by the way he's talking.
I see. It creates a sense of calm.
And then it's not just about the tone, it's about the words he chooses. He focuses on labeling their fears.
Like giving their emotions a name.
Yeah, exactly. He'll say things like, it sounds like you're worried about what'll happen if you come out.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
Because by labeling their fears, he's actually validating their emotions.
Right. He's acknowledging how they feel instead of dismissing them.
And that creates a sense of trust and understanding.
Yeah, it's like when you're upset and someone just listens to you and acknowledges how you feel, even if they don't agree with you, it makes you feel a little bit better.
100%. And that's the power of tactical empathy. It's not about manipulation. It's about building rapport, creating a connection that opens the door for a more productive conversation.
So how can our listeners use this in their everyday lives?
Well, think about it. How often do you find yourself in situations where someone's angry or upset or just not listening?
All the time.
Right. And in those situations, tactical empathy can be a game changer.
So whether you're dealing with a frustrated coworker or a demanding client, or even a teenager who just won't listen.
Oh, yeah, those teenagers.
Tactical empathy can help you navigate those situations with more understanding and create a more productive environment.
So we've talked about the power of no and tactical empathy, but Voss has one more tool up his sleeve.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He calls it the black swan. What comes to mind when you hear that?
Well, black swan usually refers to like a totally unexpected event that has a huge impact.
Right.
So I'm guessing in the context of negotiation, it means something similar, like a piece of information that changes everything.
You got it. Voss uses it to describe those crucial bits of information that can completely shift the balance of power in a negotiation.
Okay, so it's like finding that missing piece of the puzzle that suddenly makes everything click into place.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, he tells the story of the Burnham kidnapping. Remember the American missionaries who were taken hostage by the Abu Sayyaf group in the Philippines?
Yeah, that was a tough one.
It was. And Voss talks about his frustration trying to get them released. Even with all the FBI's resources and expertise, they just couldn't seem to break through.
Like they were missing something crucial.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? It wasn't some seasoned negotiator or high-ranking official who cracked the case.
Really? Who was it then?
It was a Filipino politician. Someone with no formal negotiation training.
Wow, that's surprising.
He was able to do what the FBI couldn't get a phone call through to one of the hostages.
So what was his secret? How did he pull that off?
Voss calls it no reciprocation.
No reciprocation? What's that?
It might sound counterintuitive, but instead of offering something in return for information or cooperation, this politician just asked.
He just asked.
Straight up, no promises, no bargaining, just a direct request.
Interesting. So it's like he caught them off guard.
Exactly. It disrupted their expectations and created an opening.
So like if you're trying to negotiate the price of a car, instead of saying, I'll give you this much if you throw in the new tires, you just ask what's the lowest you can go.
Exactly. You're not making any promises, you're just gathering information.
I see. So no reciprocation can be a way to uncover those black swans, those hidden pieces of information that can give you an edge.
Precisely. And speaking of uncovering hidden information, Voss also talks about a hostage in Colombia named Jose who overheard his captors talking about Voss's tactics.
Oh, wow. So they were actually aware of what Voss was doing.
And get this, they were worried about the impact of his questions, even if those questions seemed totally random or irrelevant at the time.
So sometimes the questions that seem the most out of left field can actually be the most revealing.
It's like you're shining a light into those dark corners of the negotiation. and exposing things that might have stayed hidden otherwise.
I like that analogy.
So for our listeners, remember, don't be afraid to ask questions, even if they seem a little strange or off topic. You never know what you might uncover.
You might just stumble upon a black swan that completely changes the game.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, we've covered 3 really powerful tactics: the power of no tactical empathy and the art of finding the black swan.
It's amazing how much we can learn from the world of hostage negotiation.
It really is. And as you go about your day, start paying attention to all the negotiations happening around you at work, in your relationships, even at the grocery store.
It's everywhere.
Exactly. And the more you understand the dynamics of negotiation, the better equipped you'll be to get what you want in any situation.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
And with that, we'll leave you to explore this fascinating world of negotiation. Remember, these tactics are just the beginning. There's so much more to discover, and we encourage you to keep learning, keep practicing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.